communities have been the canaries alarming the world on the climate collapse. More affluent communities are now discussing flooding, while frontline communities have been underwater for decades. Communities feel that air quality issues pertain to forest fires, particularly the Canadian forest fires, while frontline communities have been combating air-related illnesses for generations. This presentation, let's see if I remember. Okay. This presentation is intended to provide an overview of critical issues impacting marginalized communities across Virginia. Challenges, faces, and solutions attained. We're joined here today by a very esteemed panel. I'm very excited. We have Jane English, who's the Environmental and Climate Justice Fellow for the NAACP Center for ECJ, which is an acronym for Environmental and Climate Justice. We're also here, joining us here today is Nicole Martin, who is the president of the Chesterfield NAACP branch. And then on the end is Monica Hutchison, who is the president of the Enrico branch. All three of our wonderful panels are going to talk about what they've endured and some of the accomplishments that they were able to achieve. In general, the Virginia Environmental and Climate Justice Program began in 2019. However, Jane is going to give us some background on the beginning of the national program, which is over 14 years. And since our beginning in 2019, we've expanded to approximately 10 different units across the Commonwealth. Some are more developed than others. Some are involved in more issues than others, but most started because of an imminent threat that was prevalent in their community, whether it was threatening their homes, their quality of life, or even access to quality jobs. As noted by our keynote speaker this morning, Mustafa Santiago Ali, we must remember as we move forward to build a just transition that is not just a Band-Aid solution, but looking for long-term gains. And we're not single-issue communities, so we have to move forward where our solutions and our conversations is a comprehensive conversation. For instance, and Jane, she's going to go into this as well, but in our Fumes Across the Fence Line report, it identified that some of our students were missing 101,000 sick days per year. If we were just to look at that as a public health issue or an air quality issue, we would have missed the opportunity to make sure that their education and their academic achievements are not also influenced by the climate change and the environmental injustice that they incur. And so, and another thing that we have to make sure to be able to find a long-term solution that works for everyone is to have those hard conversations. And to look at those truths and acknowledge there are reasons why communities are not thriving as well as their counterparts. Even though Jim Crow and the other discriminatory laws are illegal, a lot of the communities are still feeling heavy influence from these laws. And so with that, I am going to turn the mic over to our panel, Jane English. I will not go into their bios. Maybe they can just come up and introduce themselves. Their bio is in the app, so you can get caught up with that. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll also have a slide on how to contact our panelists. And I would like to, in advance, thank Kaylee, who is going to be our in-room moderator, and she's going to try and keep us on time. So thank you for being here with us today. And with that, Jane, if you would join us at the mic. Okay. Thank you, Leader Camplin. She's told you I'm Jane English.
I work with NAACP National and the Environmental and Climate Justice Center. I bring greetings from our chair, and there's one of my allies and comrades, I will call her that, politely. Parisa, oh, take a bow, get up and take a bow. No, you all don't know. You got somebody that really does the work here on the ground. So I bring greetings from Chair Russell, Leon Russell. I've known Russell for longer than we are both willing to admit. He's the chair. I bring greetings from our president and CEO, Derek Johnson, Catherine Eglin, the board chair for the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee, our chief strategy officer, I got to give this right, Yumika Rushing, and our current director, Bray Connor. The reason I do that is because I really want you to know we do have a great team, and that we work very hard to try and support communities throughout the United States and in other countries as well when it's appropriate, but definitely within the United States. I've known Karen now since 2018 or 19, and she's a stalwart. We call each other anytime, day or night, and we discuss issues as though it were 9 in the morning, and we've really become very clean, very straight allies. Also, my co-panelists, I've worked with them also in Virginia. Virginia's kicking butt. So it is so good to see everyone here today. When we talk about environmental and climate justice, I'm talking to the choir. I'm speaking with the choir here. So I won't go into definitions and that sort of thing. But what I will say is that it took a long time for environmental justice to be elevated and amplified to the level that it is today. And it really speaks volumes about the history of Jim Crow in this country and how it impacted the movement, regardless to which sector of the movement it has been. But because our very lives depend on it, we have had to engage on this front very intentionally and be very accurate about our what we put out there in the public. We did several different reports: cold-blooded, profits over people. I think it was profits over people, or profits over people, or people not profits. And fumes across the fence line. Those are just 2 reports we've done, but there are other studies and reports. Plus, we have our branches that work on this issue. The Washington, D.C. branch is working on childhood-led and childhood asthma with 41 organizations, with the great leadership of Dr. Janet Phoenix, with the Children's Medical Center, my sister Parisa, also with Empire DC, as well as the DC Environmental Network, which is another very powerful conglomeration of people. We've had to do this because, and the interesting thing is, our branches would go right to the sites and pick it, like when we're trying to get the coal-fired power plants shut down. And we were able to get a significant number of coal-fired power plants shut down because we live so close, within 3 to 10 miles of coal-fired power plants that emit greenhouse gases as a result of the use of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas. Well, the coal-fired power plants, we often think of that as, you see these smokestacks. And, there was always this adage in the United States, well, we keep your lights on. That's what coal does. I'm from a coal mining community. My father was a union coal miner for 54 years. My uncles were coal miners or railroad workers. They got pneumoconiosis, and we lived within blocks of 800 coal cars coming through our community per day for many, many, many years throughout most of my life, my early life anyway. But I'm saying all that to say that we used to think, oh yeah, we got to keep the lights on. So what's the alternative? And so people start really taking a look. There are alternatives. There's solar and wind primarily, but we also have conservation issues that we can take up. But the primary thing is to get the industries to understand we will no longer stand for being poisoned at the level that we're being poisoned. We're losing people daily to asthma, heart attack, cardiovascular disease. Our children's minds are actually being tinkered with and harmed. And I often wonder, with all of the ways that air pollution has impacted our children, how many times that's going to be to blame for the neglect of our school systems, when our school systems try to rely on that as a reason that some of our children do not advance. They will blame it on, well, it's because you were exposed to lead. It was exposed to car and automobile emissions. You live near the highway. You live right down the street from a chemical plant. And all of these different and various, you just think any industry and just take a second and think, how close do you live to an industry, or how close do your members or constituents live to an industry that emits greenhouse gases? Then you know why we're here with you today. It is an abomination that this has happened. Karen has already talked about the asthma rates in the African American community. More than 6.7 million African Americans live in 97 counties with oil refineries. I mean, think of that. And then when you bring these things up, people say, well, for you to fight these issues, you're going to take jobs. And that's the argument that has been going on and will continue to go on. But as this economy greens, we're going to say, we're not taking jobs, we're also going to replace jobs. Because we can no longer accept that logic that in order for us to live healthy, vibrant, prosperous lives, that we have to breathe air that is harming our very bodies just to breathe. We did, when George Floyd was killed, the I can't breathe. We were hearing that all over the country, all over the world. I can't breathe. So the environmental climate justice staff, we kept doing these workshops on air pollution, fumes, cold-blooded, a number of other more recent ones. And we'd say, we can't breathe, because if we relegate it to I can't breathe, which happened to Earl in New York, and George Floyd, then we also understand that's not the only time we don't breathe. Our very day starts coughing in many instances. I had an opportunity to visit Cancer Alley for the first time this year. I have been to New Orleans countless times throughout my activist history. And this year I went with the intention of connecting with Policy Links Southern Water Equity Caucus. And we went several places, and one of the places we went was Cancer Alley. And you drive through there, talking about a fence line community. The fences are like right there. The house is right there. My uncle died right here. My aunt died right here. That house is falling down because my grandfather died 10 years ago because these plants are here. And you see them, it's very vivid. You see these the fire coming up out of the smokestack. These chemicals this particular community is a striking example of when industries want to take over communities where they think people are least powerful, that they will do it. And they have miles, 85 miles of chemical plants going along the Mississippi from New Orleans all the way over to, it's beyond, where is this? 85 miles. Think of that. I can't even think of the place on the other end. We didn't go the whole 85 miles. The other place we visited was the Houma Nation. And if you know, this week the Houma Nation was also fiercely attacked by Hurricane Francine. Well, when we talk about greenhouse emissions, and we talk about air pollution and water and soil pollution, we're also talking about the overall impact of global warming and why we're having these continuously freaky storms. They've always happened. I mean, tornadoes and hurricanes, yeah, but they're happening at such a rapid clip now. And when I visited the Houma Nation, not only were they having problems with breathing in some parts of the nation, but it had the soil was being eroded as a result of Ida and now Francine this week. I haven't called. I'm almost afraid to call to find out what the exact pieces are on the ground. But I say all of this to say that when we say we can't breathe, We're not being rhetorical. We're not being rhetorical. You know, we live near highways. When the United States government decided to do the Federal Highways Act, and decided to put interstates through our communities, they knew darn well all those cars would be coming through there. Even now, even with so-called gentrification, you know, I call it gender imposition, that more and more cars are passing through our communities. And our schools that our children go to are located near those highways. So you've got all of these industries that plant themselves near us. You've got highways, which we really need, up against our communities, okay? You have entire industries doing 85 miles of chemical plants, coal companies, fossil fuel. I mean, right now, the faster we try to do away with fossil fuels, the faster fossil fuel companies are telling us, oh, just wait a minute, we got a friend coming, you know, and they're going to preserve us, you know, because you still need lights. Well, this generation, and I will put it generationally, the last few generations has said, oh, no, you won't. And I've lived long enough, thank goodness, and I say God, thank you very much, have lived long enough to see this metamorphosis of a movement where not only are Black and brown people now a major leader, and always have led around environmental issues, but a major leader in the environmental justice space that requires anybody doing any kind of environmental conservation work to work with us and unite with us around issues. You know, I always thought it was so, I'll never forget, somebody came to me when I was in undergrad school, and it was somebody from Sierra, actually, and they said, you know, Jane, and I love Sierra, we worked with them on cold-blooded like it was nobody's business. I mean, couldn't do it without them, actually. All the organizations had to get involved. But they came to me, we were fighting for Black history, black professors, you know, the right to be in school there. You know, we were fighting to make sure we got our adequate grades, you know, that we couldn't be cheated on our evaluations and so forth. And they said, we're not going to have a planet if you don't get involved in environmental issues. I said, I don't want to be on a planet if we have to be involved in a second-class space. And I said, we can't juxtapose the issue of saving the planet and not saving the people. What's the point? And that was many years ago now when I think about it. And I've always wondered how this movement managed to stay so segregated so long. But the last few generations are standing up and saying, oh no, we will not accept patriarchy. We will not accept paternalism. We will not accept somebody's narrative about our own story, our own families, and our own health. No more. We will unite with you, but it will be on equal ground. It will be on a principled basis of unity. No longer are we reliant on people who have all the brains and all the science, but don't understand how we live that every day. We don't need a book to tell us what that chemical plant or that coal-fired power plant is doing to us. We like the science, actually. We love it. You know, we come from science. We come from a great lineage of scientists. And if you don't know anything about them, well, it speaks volumes about our education system and the books. Let's not leave them out. Nonetheless, I'm so proud that I was able to be here with you. I could talk on and on and on. If I sounded a little disjointed, it's because I've been writing and doing these things, you know, a bunch of stuff around 2025, International Advocacy Day for the last 3 weeks, and it's been like, okay, where am I? What am I talking about today? But what I will say is, we can't breathe, but with your help and all of us in this fight together, we will breathe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane, for that insightful presentation and narrative. Now I'd like to turn the mic over to President Nicole Martin from the Chesterfield branch.
Thank you, thank you. I only have 2 slides because I want y'all to focus on what I'm saying versus the monitor here. So clap, clap. Um, as Karen affectionately introduced me already, I just want to remind you, my name is Nicole Martin. I am the current president of the Chesterfield County NAACP, located in Chesterfield, Virginia. Thank you so much, Jane, for all the work that you're doing on the national level. As a person of color, you know, it's nice to be in a room and see people that look like myself versus everyone just being Caucasian, and we're talking about the issues that affect Black and brown people. And I'll talk more about that during my presentation. And Karen, if you can just show the first slide. I know this may be small to read, and I'll just go over it. What I'm going to talk about, I only have 10 minutes. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try. What I would like to talk to you about today is an issue that we're currently dealing with in Chesterfield County. So about a year ago, it was brought to our attention that Dominion Energy, who is the only energy provider in the state of Virginia, planned to build a gas plant in Chesterfield County, right? And so when the issue was brought to me by my climate and environmental justice chair, I said, well, tell me more about it, right? And so he starts telling me more about it, and I'm like, okay, and you said it's located where? And you said that we just recently retired a coal ash plant that was there for the past 80 years. And it's also in a frontline community that is mostly populated with Black and brown people. And Dominion now wants to sit down and have talks with me. Well, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about because my opinion's not going to change, right? You know, and I just want to remind you all that in my position, I'm not a politician, right? I'm an unpaid person that is volunteering my time to advocate for the people that necessarily this is not on the top of their agenda, right? And when we're talking about low income, you know, low socioeconomic people of, you know, of that type of caliber, environmental justice, I'm just going to say, is not on the top of the Black agenda. But I plan to change that in Chesterfield County because it is definitely a big issue. Okay, you know, when we're talking about this plant being located within 1 mile of an elementary school, and the amount of people of color who are more, you know, prone to develop upper respiratory issues, you know, we have asthma, emphysema, all these types of things, right? And then you're talking about, hey, we want to build this gas plant that is, the gas is cleaner. There's no such thing as clean gas. Like, who are you talking to? And you know, sometimes I take a personal offense as if like, do you think that you're talking to someone who is not educated, who's not going to go out there and do the research, who's not going to go out there and talk to scientists who are expertise in this matter? Do you think I'm just going to sit down and say, hey, because you want to throw us a little money here and there, that I'm supposed to go back and tell the people that I represent, hey, they're going to build a gas plant. It's going to keep people employed, and it's a good thing for us because we need that energy. No, that's not what I'm going to do, especially when there are other available resources to provide that energy. That's wind energy. That's solar energy. Solar energy is booming right now, right? And there's also battery energy that they're doing. Mind you, Dominion Energy, the same company that wants to build the gas plant, they have a pilot program going right now with Virginia State University where they're using the batteries, right? So when you come and sit down and talk to me and you tell me, the community needs this, we can't go without energy, what's going to happen when someone's on life support in the hospital? Well, what happens now if the power goes out? What happens? Tell me what happens now when the power goes out. They have a generator, right? All hospitals have generators. Again, to sometimes, I think they try to insult my intelligence, but I haven't spoken to them in a few months, and I think they know the reason why. Like, she's not the one. Please don't come with the foolishness, because whatever you say if it's not making sense. When we're in an environment, right? We know better, so we have to do better. 80 years ago, when that coal plant was up and running, that was the only resource that we knew for energy, right? So, we didn't know about all the harmful effects that it would cause years down the road, and with years passing, we come up with developments, right? We're now in the age where we're driving electric cars, right? That was never thought about 80 years ago. Yeah, we saw the Jetsons on TV and stuff like that, but guess what? We're living in that era right now. We're living in that age right now, and to think that there are laws currently put in place, by our former governor of Virginia, the Clean Economy Act, where it states that, Dominion Energy is supposed to be clean by the year 2045. Well, I'm not a mathematician, but we're in the year 2024. If we plan to have that gas plant up and running in 2 years, how are we going to pay for that gas plant by 2045? So not only will that gas plant be up and running, we're asking people to pay to get cancer and toxins and inhale this each and every day. And it's just frustrating at this point, but the fight doesn't end. I was recently on a panel this week with another panel member, and he is a pastor in Charles City County. And, his presentation this week just really kind of put the nail in the coffin for me. He lived in that community, and they had a gas plant issue that they tried to fight, and guess what? They won. Thank you so much. That they wanted to build 2 gas plants in Charles City. What brought to their what the thing that kind of like triggered things, like, hey, we're having these gas plants, and people are becoming sick. Guess what? In 30 years, they buried 30 people from cancer in the same community. What are the odds? The odds are that gas plant. And to think we still want to burden a community knowing what we know about science, and this is the energy that we're still trying to introduce when we have other ways and other avenues to approach this. And so that is where we are right now. So now I want to talk about things that we're doing in the community to bring more awareness, right? Because as I told you, environmental energy is now on the top of the Black and brown community, right? Their focus right now is to find affordable housing. They're trying to put food on the table for their family members. They're trying to ensure that, they can provide for their children and things like that. Environmental energy doesn't seem like it's that important right now, because it's nothing that can be attainable, right? There's nothing that they can put their hands on. And we'll work on that. And that's where education comes in. That's where people like yourself and myself, we are, I'm not an expert, but, I know a little something about environmental energy and policy. And so that's what I plan on doing, and, keep on educating my community. So some of the things that, we started doing to get more visibility and attention, we started showing up at the board of supervisors meeting. And we stand up, it's about 4 or 5 of us each and every time, and we're going to talk about different points as to why this gas plant shouldn't be built in the county, right? And why the elected officials, such as themselves, the board of supervisors, need to take an active stance in this. And so we started setting up meetings individually, one by one, because, their policy is we can't all meet together because that'll be an official meeting. No problem. Let's meet 2 by 2. And by 1, however you want to do it, no problem. We got time on our hands, right? So that's one of the things that we've done. We've allowed our community members to go out and speak. We've invited Dominion to come and do a presentation and tell us all the things, about, all the good things about the gas plant. But then, we ask them the hard questions. Number 1, how much is this plant going to cost the citizens of Chesterfield? Oh, we're not ready to release that information. Really? You're not ready to release that information, and the plant is supposed to be built next year? What sense does that make? Back in 2019, it was reported that it was going to cost $600 million. Well, you and I both know yesterday's prices aren't today's prices, right? Am I right? And so that's the number one red flag. How much is this going to cost the citizens of Chesterfield? And I want to show you something. I brought something that I just received in the mail yesterday, and I'm not sure if I have enough time, but I wanted to show you all what Dominion is depicting in the community. This is what I received in the mail. The Chesterfield Energy Reliability Center will provide energy on demands for Virginian. Who's on that? Who's on that? Now we all know these are paid actors, right? But they're depicting it as, hey, look at what we're doing for the community. Look at what we're doing for the community, right? When these are the same very people that are going to be affected by the plant 20 years from now, they're going to have cancer, right? And some of the children that already live in the neighborhood, guess what? They already have asthma and emphysema. They have to travel with pumps and things of that nature. But this is the same people, look like me and you, that's going to be affected by this. Let me go back to some of the ways that we're introducing the community and trying to keep the community aware of what's going on. You know, plenty of news stations have I've never turned down an interview. Anytime they want to interview me, what time and what place, right? I'm going to do that interview, not just so I can get news coverage, but I want people tend to believe people who look like them, right? And I'm just being honest. Again, I'm not a politician, so I can speak the truth. I don't have to tell you what you need to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth, right? Because the truth doesn't change. And the truth is people are going to feel more comfortable. People of color are going to feel more comfortable with someone like myself from the community that they see about every day. They can say, Nicole, is this true? What's going on with this power? That's the type of feedback I want to have with my community. Nicole, tell me what's going on. But will it hurt the job? Guess what? This power plant is only going to keep 35 people employed. 35 people versus a community of over 6,000 that's going to be affected by inhaling particles and toxins on a daily basis. I've also learned to collab with other environmental groups. That's why I'm here today. I'm not here today just to, take a drive up to Maryland. I'm hoping to build relationships and get more exposure on what monopoly companies like Dominion are doing to our community. And so I'm going to leave a couple minutes for any questions and answers that you may have. If I don't know the answer, I'll get back to you. But I would love to hear your feedback, and, maybe you all can give me tips on things that we can do to get more visibility on this. But thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, President Martin. And what you reminded me of is one of NAACP's favorite slogan, which is, we don't have any permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent issues. And so as we fight to prevent harm to our communities, we're also fighting and advocating for betterment and increased quality of life. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to President Monica Hutchison of our Henrico County branch.
Thank you. All right, so good morning, everyone. Like she said, I'm Monica from the Henrico County branch. I am the sister locality to Chesterfield. And I just want to say that we wholeheartedly support President Martin and what she's doing in the community to combat Dominion. So even though we're sister counties, the needs of the counties, while there's a lot of overlap, there's still some differences, right? And so Henrico County, we are the 6th largest locality. I know Chesterfield's the 5th. We go back and forth with that, just saying. Just saying. But we are about half and half, right? And so our county is 51% white, 49% Black, and other communities of color, right? In Henrico County, it's a huge change from many years ago, if you guys are familiar with Henrico. But one of the things that we've been doing in Henrico, because we have a huge housing crisis, like everywhere else in the country. And so Virginia has the most data centers of anybody else in this country, right? And in Henrico, there were plans for another data center to come in to Henrico County. We already have data centers, but this was another one to come in, right? And we pushed back, we fought. But it got to a point to where within our branch, and luckily the leadership within our county, elections have consequences. Just want to go ahead and plug that real quick. That, what our county was able to get from the data centers is the first one, period, in Virginia. And honestly, I believe it's the first one in the country, where what we got from them is, in order for them to come into our county with these data centers, the new ones, they must put money into a housing fund in our county. And we created the Henrico County Land Trust, right? We put 60 million already in that, 60 million cash, right? Not a promissory, not whatever. 60 million cash is sitting in there right now to build houses that are affordable. And the county is also waiving connection fees and things of that when these houses are built. But in order to have it waived, those savings must be passed on to the home buyer. Henrico, the county will own the land, but the person owns the structures on the land, right? Yes, they can absolutely sell. That's not a problem. But because of that, mortgages will also be lower. Taxes will also be lower, right? And so it was, if you want to come into our county, you don't get to just come for free. You're going to have to pay to play in Henrico County. And so that is something that we got. And so over the course, we will be getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the data centers that are coming in, going specifically into this housing fund for Henrico County, right? And that's huge because, like I said, no one else has it. And those that do have it do not have cash sitting in the bank account, right? They give out as loans or grant. Nope. Henrico will write a check right then and there, right, when you build. And these houses look just like everybody else. So nobody will know if your house is purchased through the land trust, because if there's a new subdivision coming in, if there's 20 houses being built, then maybe 5 of them will be set aside for the land trust. So these houses will be just, no one will know except for you. And so, like I said, that's really huge for us because first of its kind. In Henrico, what we also are getting, we also received a $100,000 grant from the EPA for an electric school bus, right? And thank you. And so with that 100,000 plus the county is putting in money, we also got Meta, formerly Facebook, they also are in Henrico County. So Meta, the EPA, and our county will be purchasing the school bus. We expect it to be operational 2025 to 2026. But because it's only one for right now, what we are doing with that school bus is we will be working with 3 of the high schools in our county. We have 9. 2 of the high schools are career technical centers. The kids from that school will work on the inside to reimagine, redevelop it, repurpose it. And then the 3rd high school is where our Center for Education and Human Development is. They will work on creating lesson plans for our elementary kids because 21 of our elementary schools, which will be the most economically disadvantaged schools, this bus will sit there behind their school and will be incorporated into lesson plans for our elementary school students to come in. It will be interactive. It will be for them to come in to learn about the environment, to learn about all of these different things. And like I said, because it's going to be interactive, they're going to understand, have a much better understanding of this, right? Once again, innovative, right? Haven't heard of this being done anywhere else. Maybe it is, but we haven't heard. And so that's something else we're doing. Lastly, what else we're doing is Henrico County, once again, 2025-26, we will have the first in the world K-12 living school. It will be 100% living school, right? So not just the first in the country, but the first in the world, K-12. Once again, another huge thing, we built, this is being made possible because $16.3 million in funding from a 2022 bond referendum was passed. It's going to be called the New Environmental Education Center Living Building that must meet 7 criteria to pass the Living Building Challenge. including location, materials used, health, beauty, and equity, and the water and energy usage must be net positive, meaning the building must give more than it takes, right? It will have a green roof with plants and flowers growing on it, solar panels. We will have wind turbines, pollinator space, orchards, agricultural plots, green space, more, right? And not only are we being mindful of what's happening now, but this is also going to be built on a land that has history, right? The space is to also honor the history, because the space is to honor the air, the land, and the water, because where the land where this will be built was once tilled by the hands of enslaved people. And that history will be honored, it will be remembered, it will be factored in, right? So our students will absolutely know, because this will be in Verina, which, if anybody's familiar with Henrico County, it's in the eastern part of the county, which is where it's overwhelmingly majority Black and low income, right? So that is where this is going to be. All of these things, we are being truly equitable, because equity is not equality. I'm going to point that out. We are being truly equitable in this. Now, that's not to say that we don't have issues, that we still don't have things we need to work on, because for us in our branch, environmental justice means that you do not die sooner because of where you live. And so some of the other things we're working on, that we try to be, we look at the intersection of the issues. And so we just had 2 children die, pedestrian accidents. A 15-year-old was just killed Sunday, and a 2-year-old was killed a few weeks ago, because our county does not have sidewalks like that, right? So this is something that we're really pushing for. The county is aware, and they are working on. We are number 2 in Virginia for pedestrian deaths this year. We're number 5 in Virginia for pedestrian crashes. And so this is something that we absolutely must think about. And so if we're saying that environmental justice means you do not die sooner because of where you live, we have to factor in all of that. And so that is something that we're factoring in. We have been working with GRTC, which is our bus company in the Richmond area, to make sure that we are expanding access to the bus, that we are making sure to prevent that from happening, that our students are getting access to the bus to go to after school jobs, right? That's going to help increase economic opportunities for our young people and for the families, right? It's going to help with independent living skills. All of these things should come into when we're looking at, especially our young people as a whole, to build a healthy and thriving young person. And so that is just some of the other things that we're going to be fighting for in the county. Like I said, it sounds like such a small thing, but it's actually not. It's a pretty big thing. And so, like I said, they've been really receptive to working with us. And I will say, while they're not perfect, far from it, but they are absolutely willing to sit down with our branch. And I will say, out of 5 supervisors we have on our board, 4 are members of the branch. And out of 5 school board members, 3 are members of the branch. So that right there, I will take that. Our sheriff is a member. Our Commonwealth attorney is a member of our branch. And all of our electeds are active and members, including our congressional representation, that are aligned with our values. So, you know, President Johnson said, we're nonpartisan, but we're not stupid. Okay, so, but yeah, does anybody have any questions before I close? Okay. All right, well, like I said, so thank you guys for having me here. Thank you for inviting me so I can share a little bit about what we're doing in Henrico County. Like I said, we have a lot more work to do, but we have absolutely made some wins and some gains. So thank you.
All right, so now we're opening up to the question and answer portion of our session. I have the contact information for everybody up here if you want to take a picture, and please reach out to each of the branches to provide any support or technical conversations, or if you have any ideas about more innovative funding, we're open for all of that. So contact us if you have any information. So with that, are there any questions in the audience? Up front?
One thing having this discussion. I know a little bit about Dominion energy and just especially today's climate, how significant energy is. Has there been any consideration or challenges with like fighting these companies with corporate like in a more financially economic minded way? Because unfortunately, trying to appeal to people's morality and their ego doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to highlight that it will hurt Virginia's pockets, or it will hurt wherever you are. It'll hurt the government's pockets if they have to shell out money for folks who have cancer or folks who are dealing with health issues or anything like that. So
That is a great point that you brought up, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because through all the individual work that we've done as an organization, and this is why visibility is so important, because of all the groundwork that we've done on our own, we are now represented by the Southern Environmental Law Center, environmentalists who are at the top of their game. So each time that Dominion moves forward in their process, guess what? The SCLC and the NAACP are right there with them in black and white on paper, holding them accountable, finding out who's authorizing what. And if they miss one step, boom, we're checking them right there. We've provided the slideshow that was up there. It's just a 2-pager. I have a copy in my bag. I don't try to waste paper, but if you all want to take a picture of it on your phone, or if I can share it through you with email, we've sent that information to the people that make the decision makers, like the board of supervisors. Like, hey, this is a known fact. These are the potential harms that's going to happen to those people, especially in living in that environment on a daily basis, right? And so we want to make sure that each stone doesn't go unturned. You can't say you didn't know, because we've provided you with this information. We've also, I've gotten up there and said, hey, is this the legacy that we plan on leaving for this community? Knowing that we know all the harmful effects, number one. Number two, we're going to have to pay for this. It's not like Dominion is offering this electricity for free, right? They're providing it, for to me as a last ditch for their shareholders, right? Because we all know solar energy is way cheaper than gas, and so here are all the facts. How is this even on the table as a discussion still, when there's more cons than there are pros? Yes, we need energy, but there's other ways to go about it. And so thank you for that, and I hope that answers your questions. Now we have the Southern Environmental Law Center behind us to meet Dominion lockstep every which way.
thank you.
Thank you.
Economic impact. And I guess most people know what's going to come. Well, we need these good paying jobs. These people need economic opportunity. And it's going to be this and it's going to be that. That always comes up. Where I'm from in Petersburg, a former principal, her father worked in the coal mines somewhere in either West Virginia or Southwest Virginia. I forgot, but when he passed the black law, she said they had the best health care you think.
Oh, yeah.
And they took care of all of them. And I'm thinking to myself, like,
Right.
I guess that's all right, but if I'm coughing up half my lungs, what good is the best health care on the distance? And so I'm thinking more about the devil's advocate. Okay, if you want to create this plant, don't put it here, put it over there in that rich neighborhood where the $200,000 homes are. And let's see how you all feel about it then.
That's exactly what we told Dominion when they came to do their presentation. My husband, who is the actual treasurer of the branch, said, oh, okay, if we need this energy so bad for, the population, right? Go ahead and build it in short pump. Go ahead and build it in short pump, because that's, the best of the best is in short pump. So why not build the plant there?
So, and if I can also add to that, because, and I was just going to what I had when I was speaking about economic opportunity for everybody, right? And that's the real conversation, because that's very valid. First of all, when people have that concern, the first thing we really need to make sure we're doing is validating that concern, because that is a very, very real, valid concern, right? Now, with that being said, that's also why we need collective bargaining in Virginia. We need to make sure unions are coming into Virginia. We are making sure we have worker rights in Virginia, worker protections in Virginia. Healthcare is a right and not a privilege, period. All of these things, right? But making sure that people have an opportunity for advancement, right? So people should be able to be paid to take care of their families, right? And so if we want to counter that, one, then we have to, and so in this space, we have to make sure that we're fighting other battles, because if we just go in there and talk to those communities and say, it's not good for your health, those people, honestly, they don't want to hear that, because they have babies at home who are hungry. They need a roof over their head. They need, you know what I'm saying? They need clothes on their back. And so it becomes, how do we fix that? We have to get to the root cause of it, the systemic root, the racist root, the white supremacy ridden root, right? Of why our communities are always impacted, why they are paid worse. We have these crazy health disparities, right? And so we have to start fighting battle by battle, brick by brick. And to do that, we need to be in coalition, right? That's why I said I absolutely support President Martin and what she's doing in Chesterfield. And for us in Henrico, it's important for us to also fight different battles, right? We need to start removing some of the bricks while supporting her to allow her to go out there and fight Dominion, and we can fight for other economic opportunities, right? Because our counties talk to each other all the time. And so like the housing fund that we're doing in Henrico, trust me when I tell you, Chesterfield is already talking to Henrico about, hey, what do we need to do? How do we do it, right? And so it is about being in coalition with one another, but making sure that we are addressing the root causes and the needs of that person. And we do that first by validating, because we have a bad habit of writing off, right? Like as a whole of writing off. And then let me just say, so President Martin mentioned how the space is usually a very white space. And that's very true. We also have to be careful and make sure that not just Dominion and those companies, but that other people in the fight with us are not using us as poster children for their NIMBYism, right? Because there's plenty of times when stuff be happening and they come in and they all, oh, they care about black folks then because they don't want something in their backyard, right? But the moment it's gone, I don't see you no more, right? Where you at? Oh, you don't care about black, like, I thought you cared about black children, right? Richmond has the second highest rate of asthma and allergy in the country. Where are you at, right? And so we need to start calling that out too, right? Don't come to me because you need my face to help you win your battle. For NIMBYism, absolutely not. We got serious things that we're fighting for over here. And so we also have to be careful of who we let into this coalition, because not everybody means us good.
There you go. Also, we know that we try to speak forward towards there's going to be some growing pains.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody talks about this,
Right.
And that's on both sides.
Right.
Battery engine and electric vehicles are good, but there's some downsides.
Yes.
Nobody talks about that except maybe your mechanic and a few people that know that. Oh, how these batteries being mined overseas.
Yep.
Car breaks down, you have another $40,000 another battery, not a car but a battery. So how do you talk about growing pains with electric energy? And of course we know that solar energy is good, but how do you let people know this? There's gonna be some growing pains. We know we can't keep going on like this, because we're seeing some things, we're seeing the ramifications now. There's gonna be some growing pains, but we can't keep going on like this, and we have to go about it the right way. And then it's kind of like
The catch-22.
yeah, some people gonna try to, well, let's just keep doing, let's just keep the coal plants going, and somebody's gonna die, somebody's gonna suffer.
Right.
It's easy for you to say when you're across town.
Right.
All right, yeah,
Can
so we
I-
have about 7 minutes left, so
Can
let me
I-
just try and get a couple more questions in, if that's okay?
Just that one
Oh,
second.
yes, and then you,
I do.
I'm sorry, I don't know you.
No worries. We'll get there. I promise I won't be long-winded this time. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I'm not going to reiterate what you said or either of you said, but what I will say is it's very interesting how NIMBY, became a movement in the United States. You go to zoning meetings, not in my backyard. It is as racist as it is vile, okay? And I always say, well, not in my backyard, how did it all end up in our backyards, okay? So that's one thing. Two is just transition plans. Now we have to get real about not just giving lip service to just transition, but really getting to the political economics and science, thank you, political economics and science of what a just transition would look like. The other thing is we're trying to get away from extractive economies, where we, extract from the earth and harm communities and people with extraction versus, the other side. But rare earth minerals, you're absolutely right. They're extractive, okay? And so we have to be very careful about that. You were right about the disposables. But we become sacrifice zones every time. So the beauty in the people I see here today and I see on a regular basis is that we are learning more and more of the science. We're learning more of what it's going to take for a green transition or a just transition. And the wages have to be there. We'd call for universal health care and other things like that. But yeah, if we plan it, we can do it, but we're not just going to have to get in front of the curve, but we're going to have to be directly involved. And you can bet your bottom dollar that the traditional energy, or what you call the big energy, they're not so traditional, but big energy, they're moving very fast to green. Okay, so they want to monopolize what green energy looks like, and that's another thing we're going to have to look at, because once they dominate it, forget about these nice solar bills we get now.
If you guys are okay with not doing a closing statement,
Yeah.
we
yeah.
just have one more
Yeah.
question.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hello. First of all, I wanted to thank each of you for giving us your projects and like your personal experiences. Very, very illuminating and really interesting. My question was President Hutchinson. I really have a lot of questions about like the design process of this living school and how you're going about the curriculum and just talking to and connecting to the high schools and the middle schools and the elementary schools. So in general, look out for my email on that.
Okay.
But that's all. Thank you all.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would just add, our Henricopolis Soil and Water Board, majority of them are also members of our branch. And so, yeah. And so, I love that. Oh, yeah.
Wow. We got to get a picture.
Yeah.
I went to ANC for landscape architecture, and now I'm in Richmond. I'm leading some training programs for middle schoolers.
Oh.
I'm learning about farm and stuff like that. So I'm in
Absolutely.
okay.
Please.
So I would love, that's,
Yes.
I would love to learn.
Yes. Absolutely.
Hi, good morning. I'm Shipra Kumar from the Union of Concerned Scientists.
Yes.
Thank you so much for all of your comments. Hello, and it's so interesting to hear and really important to connect the dots between what all you've said. We've been investing in resources to help communities like yours fight natural gas plants, or gas plants, not natural. This is something that was used as a way of getting social license. And so one of the things you mentioned, and I was curious about, the data center piece, is another thing that is being used as a way to justify more fossil fuel generation. And we're coming up with new resources that I'd love to get in your hands. But I'm curious if that connection is being made in between your counties, where that load from the data centers is actually being is important. You're getting some benefits from it, and they're trying to, I'm worried, buy social license to then get their natural gas. Are you all talking about that?
We have.
Okay.
Yeah, we absolutely have. And so those dots have been connected behind the scenes. Like I said, Virginia has the most data centers of everybody. I think, honestly, I think Senator Warner said we have the most data centers in the rest of the country combined, right? And so that right there is saying something. And that right there also is not very well advertised across the Commonwealth about the data center, about what's going on, what's happening, because you're right? It is like a devil's advocate type deal. And that is something that we need to have more discussion. But we absolutely have.
Yeah. And then the one other thing I'd say we need to watch out for is there are folks saying the problems with clean energy, with the renewable energy, is actually a reason to get nuclear.
Yes.
And that's, as we all know, there's no solutions right now for nuclear, and there's a lot of safety concerns. So, we have a lot to look out for, and I love this message.
That's exactly right.
All right, well, that concludes our time, but I just want to say, please visit us online at naacp.org. There are a lot of resources and toolkits, including Fumes Across the Fence Line, which talks about the health effects and the impacts of being close, adjacent to fossil fuel and emitting facilities. We also have 2 volumes of fossil that debunks the myths that are being used to justify some of these emitting facilities, such as what the gentleman in the back said, talking about it's going to bring jobs, as well as President Martin had mentioned earlier. So it kind of talks about all of those things. And then one of my favorite toolkits that are on there is Our Communities, Our Power, which goes through and it talks about the different elements and pieces of the community, whether it's transportation, waste management, and it gives ideas on how to change local legislation, state legislation, and also projects that you can implement, such as participatory budgeting, how to address affordable housing. There are about 36 chapters or something like that, and it's just wonderful. And then there's also toolkits on how to mobilize and start building your grassroots movement. So with that, please take a picture of our contact information, reach out to us. If you have any state issues, reach out to me, county issues, and then of course our national representative is here. And thank you for indulging me with the extra minute or two. And thank you for joining us here today. Enjoy the rest of the symposium. And thank you very much. And thank you to our panels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a lot.